Today's story is called The Necro. Henry was a well-respected man in the city. He was also known as the best mortician around. Many families would trust him and only him to take care of their loved ones and get them prepared for a final farewell. For the most part, Henry loved his job, but there was one problem that was bothering him. You see, Henry was a man in his mid-30s and he was alone. His job certainly didn't get any woman's attention. It actually creeped most people out. But Henry had his eye on one particular woman, Kate Benson. Miss Benson was a doctor, and Henry had an infatuation with her for a long time, ever since he used to go get checkups from her. He made several passes at her, which she often turned down. Henry would send candy, letters, flowers, all sorts of gifts to her job, and she would send them back. Once he wrote a message to her on her Facebook Messenger, asking her for a date. And she replied, "Henry, I told you no several times. Will you please stop asking? You're starting to come off as a creep." This infuriated Henry. Infuriated him to the point where he started to do irrational things. Henry started to stalk poor Kate Benson. At times of night, he would drive his car outside her house and stop and peer into her windows to see what she was doing. His behavior became obsessive to someone he knew he could never have. Well, one day, he saw Kate going on a nightly walk. He had realized she'll do this certain routine over and over because he'd been stalking her for quite a while. Henry saw this as an opportunity, seeing there wasn't nobody else around, and a dark thought came to his head. Henry sped up while seeing her, and purposely hit Kate Benson with his car. He got out and walked back to her body and saw that she was still alive on the ground and shaking. She asked for help, but Henry decided to get back in his car, put his car in reverse and drive back over her. This time she was dead. He left the body there for the people to find, which they did, and Kate's family came right to him and asked him to prepare her for a funeral. Henry smiled. He knew this would happen, and he knew he finally would get his way with Kate. Once he got the body, he had cleansed it, put makeup on it, and dressed it up real nice. And for days, he would spend hours defiling the body in a sexual manner. Until the day of the funeral. Henry dressed Kate up to be beautiful. It was his best work. She was downright gorgeous. It was his own send-off instead of the family's. Well, after the funeral, Henry still was very obsessed of Kate Benson. He wanted to feel her body again. So, Henson planned a trip to the cemetery with a shovel. He would steal Kate's body while the dirt was still fresh so people won't think it had been disturbed. When he made it to the cemetery, it was dark and it was rainy. He had planned to go about with his move. On his way to Kate's grave, Henry stopped. He couldn't believe what was standing in front of him. On the path that led to Kate's grave stood Kate, and she was walking towards him, slowly. She was dressed in the lingerie that he dressed her up in on one of their special nights. Henry panicked. He couldn't believe what he was seeing. He tried to turn around and run, but his legs wouldn't move. She advanced on him slowly, and he could see blood, embalming fluid, all sorts of liquids pouring out of her mouth, her nose, her eyes. but her eyes were fixed on one person and one person alone. Him. And they were angry. Nobody knows what happened to Henry that night. But the next morning, locals that worked at the cemetery found Henry's naked body sprawled on top of Case Benson's grave.